Personality case study for Susan. Natal to Navamsha of Nakshatra Pada analysis. Ascendant and first house, Sagittarius in Mula Nakshatra, Navamsha Taurus, first house. Natal chart expression, outer self. Susan's outward personality is shaped by Sagittarius rising in the nakshatra of Mula. This gives her an intense drive to uncover what is true and essential, often through disruption, detachment, or dramatic breaks from past conditioning. Mula forces one to dig deep, uproot false identities, and tear down outdated beliefs. It does not tolerate illusion. Her approach to life is confrontational in the philosophical sense. She challenges authority, tradition, and inherited frameworks, sometimes destroying before understanding what must be built in its place. With the second pada of Mula, there is a pronounced emphasis on resources: food, money, family values, and material security. This placement links the fiery independence of Sagittarius with the grounded, possessive nature of Taurus. As a result, Susan's identity is built not only on moral ideals or freedom, but also on tangible outcomes, what she can create, own, protect, or pass down. There is a karmic lesson here around mismanagement or imbalance in resource-related matters. When identity is tied to what one accumulates or controls, life may bring challenges through debt, strained family dynamics, or being forced to serve those previously overlooked. A sense of entitlement or superiority about one's resources or abilities can lead to breakdowns that eventually push her toward humility and genuine service. In everyday terms, Susan may come across as self-reliant, visionary, or even rebellious. But her self-expression is colored by an undercurrent of defensiveness when it comes to being valued or appreciated. She might feel the need to prove herself through success, and when her efforts aren't acknowledged, there's frustration. The world sees someone who is passionate, independent, and principled. Beneath that, there is a story of constantly having to rebuild self-worth after being undermined or after making impulsive choices that result in loss or shame. Navamsha shift, Taurus in the first house. Internally, Susan experiences herself in a very different way. While the outer persona pursues big truths and tests moral boundaries, the inner self is deeply grounded in Venusian values: beauty, stability, consistency, and personal worth. Taurus as the Navamsha ascendant indicates someone who seeks peace, predictability, and comfort. Internally, she doesn't want drama. She wants reliability, harmony, and an atmosphere that affirms her value without question. There's a deep craving for sensory pleasure and a calm rhythm of life that gives her confidence. This internal Taurus core makes Susan highly self-protective. She may not appear sensitive externally, but on the inside, she is acutely aware of how others make her feel, especially regarding respect, appreciation, and emotional safety. Her instincts are slow to trust and quick to withdraw from environments that threaten her inner security. The craving for validation is rarely expressed outwardly, yet its absence may quietly erode her confidence. Inner-outer personality dynamics. There's a sharp contrast between how Susan acts in the world and how she feels within. On the surface, she is the brave explorer, seeking knowledge, challenging conventions, and dismantling structures that no longer serve truth. But inwardly, she wants stability, protection, and emotional and material assurance. This push-pull between bold change and calm preservation can lead to internal conflict. She may enter phases of outward action, moving fast, making bold choices, only to find herself emotionally depleted or unfulfilled. These cycles teach her that action must be balanced by grounded purpose, and that truth-seeking must be paired with respect for personal values and emotional continuity. Her challenge is to ensure that the bold identity she displays does not uproot the inner peace she craves. Her growth lies in learning how to be both courageous and content, how to take risks without sacrificing her inner sense of safety, and how to express self-worth without needing external confirmation. Summary of the first house integration. Susan's personality is constructed around a paradox. She is a truth seeker who feels safest when life is predictable. She may destroy outer illusions only to later rebuild what was lost in a more conscious, intentional way. Her karmic path is to refine her values, not just question others. And while she might be drawn to instability through her Sagittarian quest, her ultimate fulfillment comes when she creates an inner sanctuary of peace, integrity, and self-respect. Her task is to align bold outer expression with a grounded, peaceful inner core. Personality case study for Susan, Natal to Navamsha of Nakshatra Pada analysis. 6th house focus, Moon in Taurus, Rohini Nakshatra, 1st Pada, Navamsha Aries, 12th house. Service, work, and daily responsibilities. Susan approaches her daily responsibilities with consistency and reliability. With Moon exalted in Taurus in the 6th house, she naturally brings a soothing, stabilizing presence into work environments, especially in caregiving, nutrition, or design-related roles. She values comfort and familiarity in routines and prefers work that involves tangible results, material beauty, or emotional care. However, this placement also indicates emotional labor being poured into daily struggles, often leading her to overfunction, working hard to maintain peace, even when it's not acknowledged. There may be a tendency to become emotionally entangled with coworkers, clients, or service roles, making it difficult for her to emotionally detach from workplace dynamics. She may carry the emotional weight of others, especially if she feels responsible for their well-being. The need to be useful or appreciated can drive her to take on more than she should. Internally, however, the Aries 12th house moon shows that her true motivation may not be recognized even by herself. There is emotional restlessness and a subconscious drive to retreat from duties, especially when she feels overwhelmed or unappreciated. Her emotional responses to conflict at work may involve impulsive withdrawal, silent resentment, or sudden detachment. She prefers to appear composed, but may internally fantasize about escape or solitude, especially during emotionally intense work periods. Health and mind-body connection. Moon in the 6th makes Susan highly responsive to food, routine, and stress, and her body often reflects the emotional conditions of her environment. In Taurus, the focus is on nutrition, digestion, and reproductive health, areas where imbalance can trigger symptoms when emotions are not processed. Since Taurus is a fixed earth sign, she may ignore early health signs, leading to chronic tension stored in the body, especially in the throat, neck, or stomach areas. Internally, the 12th house Aries moon suggests that health issues may be tied to unconscious emotional tension, hidden anger, or repressed need for space. Her healing begins when she learns to say no and honors her need for privacy and rest instead of compulsively serving others or maintaining appearances of control. Conflict, competition, and enemies. In the 6th house, the moon represents how Susan emotionally processes conflict and competition. With Rohini's influence, her conflict style tends to be subtle, diplomatic, and nurturing, yet also deeply stubborn when emotionally provoked. She does not seek direct confrontation, but can become passive-aggressive or emotionally manipulative when cornered. She tries to maintain emotional control, but inner volatility, Aries in Navamsha, means she may surprise others by suddenly withdrawing or retaliating if pushed too far. She is emotionally affected by disrespect or a lack of appreciation at work and may internalize conflict instead of expressing it openly. Over time, this can lead to emotional burnout or subconscious resentment toward coworkers, supervisors, or even those she serves. Debts and responsibilities. There is a karmic pattern around overgiving in service, especially emotional labor, and emotional debts that never feel settled. She may feel obligated to fix, serve, or emotionally support others, often without being asked. Internally, there's a need to let go of guilt and expectations tied to service. Healing occurs when she understands that self-sacrifice must be chosen consciously, not as a way to prove worth. Key themes in 6th house matters. Appears emotionally composed and nurturing in service roles, but internally feels overburdened. Has a hidden emotional desire to retreat from routine and responsibility. Sensitive to emotional dynamics at work, prone to silent emotional strain. Health is directly impacted by unprocessed emotional overload and dietary habits. Needs to consciously define limits in service and establish boundaries around emotional caregiving. Personality case study for Susan, Natal to Navamsha of Nakshatra Pada analysis. 7th house focus, Mars, Ardrapada 2, Capricorn. 9th house, Mercury, Ardrapada 4, Pisces, 11th house. Sun, Punarvasupada 1, Aries, 12th house. Rahu, Mrigashirapada 3, Libra, 6th house. Sign, Gemini. Themes, partnerships, commitments, contracts, public visibility, one-on-one dynamics. Relationships and partnerships, 7th house core themes. The 7th house in Gemini suggests that Susan approaches relationships intellectually and analytically, often seeking mental stimulation, flexibility, and novelty in her partnerships. Communication plays a major role in how she connects, but with multiple planets here, including 2 malefics, Sun, Mars, and Rahu, there are intense karmic entanglements and psychological complexities in close bonds. She is likely to attract relationships that are dynamic, conflict-prone, or driven by specific personal agendas, such as status, Sun, conquest, Mars, unmet desires, Rahu, or mental validation, Mercury. This can create a restless relationship pattern, where partners either challenge her ego, test her resilience, or push her to evolve through intellectual and emotional discomfort. Internally, her Navamsha placements show that partnerships affect not only her outer relationships, but also her spiritual drive, professional trajectory, and emotional health. Mars in Ardra Nakshatra, 2nd Pada, Capricorn 9th house, Navamsha. Mars in Ardra is intense, emotionally stormy, and quick to fight through words. Placed in Gemini, Mars becomes verbally aggressive, critical, and impatient in relationships. In Ardra's 2nd Pada, Capricorn Navamsha, this anger is ultimately channeled toward ambition and moral correction, but often misfires in close partnerships. In the context of relationships, Susan may struggle with power struggles or emotional volatility, attracting combative or dominating partners, sudden outbursts followed by guilt or retreat. In the Navamsha, Mars falls in Capricorn in the 9th house, showing that the inner motive of these conflicts is growth through discipline and philosophical realignment. The partner may be seen as a teacher or moral challenger, but only after turbulent episodes. Internally, she wants stability and order, but externally tests partners through criticism, challenges, or intellectual resistance. Mercury in Ardra Nakshatra, 4th Pays, 11th house, Navamsha. Mercury governs speech, logic, and adaptability, and in Gemini, it is strong but sharp and unpredictable. In Ardra's 4th Pada, Pisces Navamsha, Mercury becomes emotionally infused, idealistic, and sometimes confused. This placement creates tension between her outer sharpness in conversation and inner longing for soulful, harmonious communication. In relationships, this results in excessive talking, but emotional miscommunication, shifting narratives and selective storytelling, idealizing friendships or partners and later feeling betrayed when reality doesn't match. In Navamsha Pisces 11th house, Mercury reveals that she seeks emotional connection and validation from social or intellectual groups, yet feels isolated when not understood. Romantic partners may begin as friends or collaborators, but can evolve into karmic lessons if she ignores intuition in favor of logic. Sun in Punarvasu Nakshatra, 1st Pada, Aries, 12th house, Navamsha. The Sun in Gemini and Punarvasu suggests a soul recovering from past ego wounds, seeking validation through intellectual achievements and interpersonal recognition. In relationships, Susan may appear generous and adaptable, but deeply struggles with being overshadowed or undervalued by her partner, needing praise or authority in the relationship, attracting partners who are emotionally unavailable or disconnected. The 1st Pada, Aries Navamsha, brings a silent pride and leadership impulse, but when shifted to the 12th house in Navamsha, it reveals ego suppression, withdrawal, or spiritual frustration. She may sacrifice too much of herself to maintain peace, or hide true feelings behind charm and diplomacy. This placement often creates partners who are karmic teachers, leading her through cycles of ego dissolution, loss, or transformation, often in isolation or spiritual burnout. There is also a subconscious belief that true love requires loss or solitude, which must be consciously healed. Rahu in Mrigashira Nakshatra, 3rd Pada, Libra, 6th house, Navamsha. Rahu in the 7th house intensifies desire for exotic, stimulating, or non-traditional partners. In Mrigashira, Rahu becomes flirtatious, curious, and insatiable. The 3rd Pada, Gemini Navamsha, creates someone who is restless in commitments, prone to infidelity or temptation, drawn to verbal persuasion and charm in a partner, possessive yet detached, wanting control but resisting closeness. In the Navamsha Libra 6th house, the inner emotional agenda is to resolve conflict through balance, justice, and fairness, yet the soul feels trapped in transactional or obligation-driven relationships. She may attract partners who appear fair but end up exploiting emotional or financial vulnerabilities. Rahu here also brings karmic attraction to relationships involving power imbalance, legal entanglement, or long-term obligations. Relationships might begin through charm and negotiation, but erode through hidden resentment or competitiveness. Summary of 7th house matters: relationships, public identity, and one-on-one dynamics. Outward expression: natal Gemini 7th house. Quick wit, verbal dominance, and intellectualized connection. Partners may feel challenged or critiqued rather than supported. Tendency to attract exciting but unstable or karmic partners. Inner experience: Mars, Capricorn 9th, longs for stable, morally aligned partnership after turbulent connection. Mercury, Pisces 11th, desires deep friendship, emotional resonance, but fears losing identity. Sun, Aries 12th, feels unseen, must sacrifice ego repeatedly, wants spiritual recognition. Rahu, Libra 6th, attracts relationship imbalance, desires ideal beauty but meets power dynamics. Key traits in relationship: karma, tests of ego, voice, and vulnerability. Growth comes through learning to balance speech with listening, assertiveness with surrender, and mental attraction with emotional depth. Must move from transactional bonds to transformational relationships. Needs to heal the pattern of overgiving or overcontrolling, learning that partnership is not a battlefield but a mirror. Personality case study for Susan, Natal to Navamsha of Nakshatra Pada analysis. 9th house focus: Venus in Leo, Mula Nakshatra. 2nd Pada, Navamsha Taurus. House themes: higher knowledge, faith, dharma, teachers, long-distance travel, father, blessings of fortune. Belief system: faith and moral compass. The 9th house represents Susan's guiding philosophy, long-term vision, and her connection to dharma or higher truth. Venus in this house shows that her path toward meaning is aesthetic, relational, and pleasure-driven. She seeks wisdom not just through formal learning, but through beauty, art, relationships, and legacy. With Venus in Leo, she is drawn to philosophies that celebrate self-expression, pride, status, and dignity. Her beliefs are often tied to what brings recognition and admiration. She may idealize teachers or mentors who are bold, charismatic, or noble, and in turn, may be seen as someone with a magnetic presence when she speaks on spiritual or philosophical matters. However, her Venus is placed in Mula Nakshatra, which deals with ancestral karma, legacy, and throne-bearing responsibility. This gives her a deep internalized pressure to live up to a lineage or fulfill an ancestral dharma, whether through family, relationships, or public presence. Nakshatra Pada, Maga 2nd Pada, Taurus Navamsha. This pada blends Leo's drive for recognition with Taurus's need for material stability and emotional comfort. In terms of belief, Susan may adhere to traditional frameworks when they bring her security, but reject or ignore ethical corrections when they threaten her comfort or pleasure. There may be karmic tendencies too. Indulge in luxury or sensuality under the guise of spiritual privilege. Be emotionally dismissive of elders or family values if they don't support her lifestyle. Struggle to uphold dharmic clarity when caught between public image and private indulgence. This pada often brings trouble through the spouse's harshness or indulgences, or through over-involvement in materialistic values disguised as spirituality. The core challenge here is to integrate humility and moral clarity into her belief system, not just personal enjoyment or status. Navamsha placement: Venus in Taurus, 1st house. In the Navamsha, Venus moves to its own sign and ascendant. This is a powerful internal placement. It reveals that Susan's inner sense of self is built around beauty, love, harmony, and comfort. She desires to embody grace and refinement in all that she does. She holds herself to standards of loyalty, gentleness, and artistic grace, even if these are not immediately obvious in her outer expression. This internal placement softens the outward Leo Maga drive, showing that her true spiritual compass points toward peace, self-love, and relational harmony. Her inner Venus is less performative and more grounded. It seeks true value and integrity, not just admiration. In the context of the 9th house, this suggests her external teachers or belief systems may appear hierarchical or image-based, but internally she resonates with gentler, earthier wisdom. Material comfort and self-worth are inseparable from her idea of spirituality. A partner or spiritual guide may come into her life to mirror this balance between pleasure and principle. Integration, outward dharma versus inner value system. Natal expression, Venus in Leo, Maga second pada, ninth house. Belief in the power of prestige, legacy, and ancestral influence. Seeks philosophical validation through love, art, and appreciation. Potential indulgence or moral blind spots in pursuit of admiration or comfort. Attracts partners or teachers with royal presence or material power, but karmic entanglements may follow. Navamsha expression, Venus in Taurus, first house. Inner spirituality is rooted in personal values, self-worth, and peaceful beauty. Strong desire to be recognized for grace, not just power. Growth comes through building inner consistency between what she values and how she lives or believes. Relationship to Dharma matures when she favors truth and loyalty over appearance and indulgence. Key ninth house themes for Susan. Navigates between ancestral expectations and personal values. Outwardly drawn to legacy, status, and relationships that elevate her position. Inwardly seeks stability, sensual integrity, and emotional safety in her belief systems. Must evolve from aesthetic dharma to authentic dharma, aligning pleasure with principle, comfort with courage. Personality case study for Susan, Natal to Navamsha of Nakshatra Pada analysis, 11th house focus, Saturn in Libra, Chitra Nakshatra, 4th Pada, Navamsha Scorpio, 7th house themes, gains, ambitions, networks, social capital, fulfillment of desires. Social ambitions and gains. Susan's 11th house holds Saturn in Libra, where Saturn is exalted, indicating a powerful but slow-moving influence over her ability to achieve long-term goals, establish influential networks, and create enduring legacies. The 11th house reflects what she aspires to and how she connects with social systems. And here, Saturn shows she approaches these things with calculation, discipline, and a deep sense of responsibility. There is a tendency to delay or restrict gratification, especially when it comes to her ambitions. Her achievements often come after hard lessons, delayed recognition, or overcoming significant obstacles. She is not someone who rushes to be popular. Rather, she builds her alliances carefully, often appearing reserved or detached in social settings, especially when she feels emotionally exposed. This Saturn creates a person who may feel burdened by social duties or group dynamics. She is selective with friends and likely to keep a tight-knit circle of people who align with her values or long-term goals. Nakshatra Pada, Chitra 4th Pada, Scorpio Navamsha. Chitra Nakshatra brings brilliance, creativity, and perfectionism. In the 4th Pada, this energy is deeply emotional, intense, and secretive, as it aligns with Scorpio's psychological depth. Chitra here pushes Susan to craft her social image carefully, often with strategic control of information and resources. She may present a balanced, composed face to the world, but internally she fears betrayal or social rejection, holds grudges or social injuries for a long time, tends to test people before fully trusting them in her network. In social contexts, there may be an unconscious pattern of attracting power struggles, emotional manipulation, or hidden competition, especially with elder siblings, female colleagues, or group collaborators. The karmic work here involves learning to trust and share power, rather than control outcomes through silence or withdrawal. This pada also hints at unequal friendships, where she may either feel emotionally drained by her peers or subconsciously create emotional barriers that isolate her from mutual support. Navamsha placement, Saturn in Scorpio, 7th house. In the Navamsha, Saturn shifts to Scorpio in the 7th house, indicating that Susan's inner relationship with society and gains is closely tied to karmic contracts and emotional transformation through partnerships. Saturn here becomes emotionally cautious, but intensely bonded once committed. She may internally feel bound to people who mirror unresolved emotional themes. Fear loss of control in one-on-one dynamics, especially in emotionally charged situations. Experience delayed but fated relationships that teach her how to evolve through surrender and mutual responsibility. This placement shows that her social fulfillment is closely tied to how she navigates deep emotional contracts, particularly those where trust, longevity, and karmic accountability are at stake. Even professional or social collaborations might turn into life-altering experiences, especially when she resists letting go of emotional control. Integration, outer social discipline versus inner emotional contracts. Natal chart Saturn in Libra, Chitra 4th Pada 11th house, outwardly composed, strategic, and cautious in friendships and goals. High standards for what she associates with, slow to engage socially. Prefers structured, reliable social settings over spontaneous ones. Faces karmic patterns of isolation, rejection, or manipulation in peer groups or elder sibling dynamics. Navamsha chart, Saturn in Scorpio, 7th house. Internalized sense of duty and emotional complexity in one-on-one bonds. Feels responsible for holding relationships together, even in imbalance. Needs to learn how to trust others with emotional power, not just responsibilities. Gains come not just through effort, but through transformative, emotionally raw partnerships that push her to grow. Key 11th house themes for Susan. Outwardly ambitious but cautious in building social connections. Gains and fulfillment often delayed, but deeply karmic and long-lasting. Faces emotional trials in group settings or friendships, especially where control and trust intersect. Must evolve from social control to shared accountability, from guarded brilliance to collaborative transformation. Personality case study for Susan. Natal to Navamsha of Nakshatra Pada analysis. Cat 12th house focus, Jupiter in Scorpio, Anuradha Nakshatra, 2nd Navamsha Virgo, 6th house themes. Losses, detachment, isolation, spiritual surrender, hidden enemies, expenditure, subconscious. Spiritual psyche, isolation, and detachment. Jupiter in the 12th house indicates that Susan's deepest inner growth comes through isolation, retreat, and spiritual introspection. This placement often creates a teacher behind the scenes, someone whose wisdom ripens in solitude and whose greatest expansions come through loss, letting go, or surrender. Being in Scorpio, Jupiter's function of guidance and ethical expansion becomes entwined with emotional intensity, transformation, and control. Susan may seek spiritual truth through emotional crises, psychological breakdowns, or hidden research, always seeking to understand the unseen. This makes her introspective, skeptical of surface-level knowledge, and prone to cycles of withdrawing from the world to regenerate spiritually. There may be a tendency to doubt mentors or reject guidance if it feels superficial. She likely gravitates toward teachings that involve occult, death, rebirth, or taboo subjects, seeing truth as something to be unearthed rather than received passively. Nakshat Pada, Anuradha 2nd Pada, Virgo Navamsha. Anuradha brings themes of loyalty, discipline, and spiritual devotion, especially toward causes, teachers, or principles she respects. But the 2nd Pada, falling in Virgo Navamsha, adds a subtle contradiction. It wants order, logic, and practicality in areas that are inherently emotional and invisible. This creates a karmic conflict. She may use spiritual systems mechanically, yet struggle with actual emotional surrender. She may preach emotional detachment, yet internally seek validation or loyalty from unseen connections. When confused or betrayed in spiritual emotional matters, she can become highly critical or withdrawn. There is also a theme of earning through hidden or unconventional channels, such as metaphysical work, confidential advisory roles, or service behind institutions. However, the ego may feel unseen, causing dissatisfaction if outer recognition is sought for inner work. Navamsha placement. Jupiter in Virgo, 6th house. In the Navamsha, Jupiter moves to Virgo in the 6th house, indicating that the soul's deeper lessons involve service, humility, correction, and routine. This suggests that internally, Susan's wisdom is grounded in daily effort, healing work, and karma correction, particularly around helping others through analytical or educational skills. Jupiter in the 6th house, especially in Virgo, tends to view spiritual growth as a task or responsibility, something to be refined, improved, and executed. Serve with humility, but may also feel emotionally unacknowledged for spiritual or intellectual labor. Have an inner need to solve others' problems as a form of self-worth, but may overextend or suppress personal needs in the process. There is a karmic push to resolve debts through service, particularly in teaching, healing, or problem-solving professions. The challenge lies in balancing inner spiritual expansion with outer analytical obligation, without turning spirituality into just another chore. Integration, outer emotional depth versus inner service discipline. Natal chart, Jupiter in Scorpio, Anuradha 2nd Pada, 12th house, spiritually intense, emotionally loyal, and protective of sacred knowledge. Growth comes through letting go, especially of control, secrecy, or hidden attachments. Can feel isolated even while helping others, prefers to operate from behind the scenes. Spiritually skeptical until truth is experienced directly and profoundly. Navamsha chart, Jupiter in Virgo, 6th house. Internally sees wisdom as functional, corrective, and practical. Seeks to improve systems, routines, or institutions through service-based intelligence. May tie inner worth to how well she serves, solves, or teaches, can burn out if not acknowledged. Internal sense of spirituality becomes task-focused, which must be softened to allow emotional release. Key 12th house themes for Susan. Navigates emotional and spiritual expansion through loss, withdrawal, or solitude. Deep psychological insight. May struggle to share spiritual burdens openly. Feels karmically tied to serve, heal, and correct others, particularly through private or institutional settings. Must learn to honor spiritual growth as a lived experience, not just an intellectual or moral task. Healing emerges when she accepts imperfection in faith and balances emotional surrender with practical service.